This is post Dragonhold patch, and as you can see, I think ESO is particularly feeling it when it comes to the viewers on Twitch. And people might think, well, what does it matter, if how well they're doing on Twitch if they're still pulling in numbers? People say that the game looks more crowded than ever. I would probably beg to differ, especially if you're a PvPer. See far fewer of the normal people, of the regulars, who are PvPing and streaming, players like, for example, Ringris and Christopher ESO, Dots. Many of the people who were stream team members have all but quit playing the game, and I understand why. It's very difficult to stream a game that's very buggy, when especially they're having issues with server, people crashing, blue screens. I think console players are experiencing more issues than ever before with ESO, and it's really a shame because the game really had so much potential. And the question is, can ESO be saved? At least from the standpoint of PvPer. And from my experience, having played the game for so long, I would say realistically the answer would always be no. And it's primarily because the people who are in charge of the game really don't have an interest in pursuing PvP. And of course, that correlates into less viewers, which correlates into less content creators, which correlates into less advertisement for your game. And especially as you start to lose more and more content creators because of the buggy patches, because of the poor server performance, and because of the state of the game overall, what ends up happening is when you're looking for builds to run for whatever the new patch is, when you're looking for PvP clips, or just in general speaking, for people coming into streams and being like, hey, I'm looking for a new game. What do you think? Is it worth for me to purchase ESO? When you have less and less streamers, that correlates also into less sales, which of course means less money, which means less development, etc. And I've spoken of this numerous times. It's really sad to see ESO literally sub 200 views. I think when I woke up this morning, like an hour and a half ago, they were like at 96 viewers, which is really shocking to see ESO really be that low. And of course, it's because most of the regulars are just not streaming it as often as they used to. I see a lot less content, and even when I'm lurking in other people's streams, a lot of people say the exact same thing, is that I've quit. This was the patch that made me quit, or I quit last patch, and so I'm taking a break from the game, etc. Or I'm not going to come back. I've unsubbed, etc. And it's the unfortunate thing of when you run a game into the ground. And I think this is just an overall issue with the overall companies at MX Online Studios, which you've seen in games like, for example, Fallout 76. I think they're releasing more games unfinished, trying to do what they can to kind of leech from their communities with offering the minimum amount of content in certain games. And I just really think that that's just the overall state of some video gaming companies that you've seen with, for example, with like EA releasing buggy games like Anthem, releasing it unfinished, broken, and of course that game subsequently dying rather quickly, to where they're stating that they're going to be re-releasing the game, or maybe potentially taking the game down and then re-releasing it because the game released in a very poor state. One thing that would benefit ESO, which I highly doubt they would do, is if they went the route of Final Fantasy, who ended up shutting down their game, revamping it over the course of a year, and then bringing it back out with a subscription. It's amazing that ESO had a subscription at one point, but of course, because they were releasing on console, and just to be online with console, you already have to pay. There's already a subscription fee when you're playing on console, and of course I would imagine that the ESO development realized that they weren't able to squeeze out 2 subscriptions, and of course console seemed more like a cash grab. It's been broken for ages now, and I think patch after patch after patch, I always read on ESO forums where console players are like, well, this is the patch, well, maybe console gets fixed, and it's like, bro, give it a rest already. But it's really sad to see ESO come down to this level. I would imagine over the course of the next year, and of course this correlates into less development, right? When you have less people who are streaming and drawing attention to your game, correlates into less sales, which we're already seeing with the Dragonhold patch that did not release any trials. It didn't release any trials. It also didn't release any bet content. Instead, it released a small story. And of course, as ESO starts to take in less revenue because of less viewership, because of the state of the game, you're going to see the game go the route of fewer and fewer, I guess, actual content, chunks of content, end game content, and you're going to see it go the route of a more super casual story driven, which is far cheaper to do than actually creating dungeons and creating trials and creating content for people to play. And of course, I would imagine that there's really isn't going to be any more PvP updates. It kind of is what it is for those who are still playing the game. I've had since quit, but I do follow up to see if there's actually going to be anything interesting, to see if they're doing anything to revive the game, and I'm unfortunately not seeing it. For those who are still playing, I hope that you are enjoying the game. I had enjoyed the game for a long time. I think it's kind of had it's run its course, and it's coming to its end. And I think they're just really doing everything they can to kind of squeeze those last few dollars out of ESO until they release some of their future content.